There we go. I said I won't let the sun go down without staying committed, connected to what we're doing. I pray that you had a wonderful day. Again, we are in our walking through the Bible. And today, I pray that you had the time to read. I know it's a weekend, but again, we're walking through the Bible every single day. I actually got to change the it says 24 to 26. That's supposed to be 24 to 28. So today we went through again Job chapter 24 to 28. And again, like I said before, in the book of Job, there's a lot of things that will seem as though they're like on a repeat or a consistent continual of different things that you're reading when you're reading the book of Job. But one of the things I think is very, very important, and one of the things I'm actually going to talk about right now in those chapters. First, let me just kind of cover. I'm going to cover each chapter tonight in a few minutes, and then I'm going to make sure I get off of here tonight so we can get some rest for tomorrow for church service. All right. But again, in Job chapter 24, one of the things I love about this, and I'm going to kind of talk about it just for a moment, and I'm actually just going to read verse 1 for you so you can get understand what I'm talking about. But it says, "Why, seeing times are not hidden from the Almighty, do they that know him not see his days?" So one of the things that Job starts talking about, one of the things I love about Job, and Bildad actually brings this up too as well, is they start talking about God. The conversation kind of changes a little bit, and they start talking about God through creation, and they start talking about how great God is, especially when it comes to time, especially when it comes to seasons, especially when it comes to understanding. Job starts bringing up things that are not just like, okay, what's going on with him personally or what's transpiring, but Job starts bringing up like the time of God, like understanding like the Almighty knows our days. The Almighty knows our shortcomings, our when our thoughts are far off in a sense. Like these are the kind of things that he brings up. But he also brings up where he feels like he's one of the things about Job is this, and I love it, that he's always trying to make sure he's restoring himself back to glorifying God. He does question God on some things throughout this book. He does bring up some indifferences throughout the book. But one of the things that he doesn't question who God is, he's questioning like not so much woe is me, but what is happening. But he's never questioning the authority that God has to be able to do what he's doing. Hey, Tamika, good to see you up at midnight. Good to see you up with me through this. But he's not questioning the reality or the functions of who God is. But he has questions about how can this really be happening to me, but still I trust God through all of this, right? So he starts bringing up God in time. He starts bringing up God in creation. In Job chapter 25, Bildad, this is really like his final time that he starts talking. But again, he starts talking about the problems that they're facing is beyond man. So it's not just connected to just man. Bildad begins to bring up things that are beyond just, and really his that chapter is really short, but it's only him bringing up things like far as the earth, different things that have taken place. Moon. He talks about the stars shining. He talks about a lot of different, like just a lot of things very, very shortly. And that's the last time he really kind of speaks on Job's behalf or what's taking place concerning Job. Okay. When we get to Job chapter 26, Job replies to Bildad, but he one of the things I love about Job in this too as well is that he doesn't mind rebuking his friends when he knows that they're off in what they're talking about. Sometimes, people we struggle with like rebuke in a sense, but rebuke doesn't mean that, I'm casting you out. Rebuke also means like correction. So Job had no problem with correcting his friends because again, they weren't understanding or experiencing what he was experiencing. So he always, oftentimes rebuked what they were saying and correcting what they were saying when they would oftentimes try to cause him to feel as though you have to be doing something wicked. And I will say this too as well. It's important that you don't allow, hey, Amida, good to see you. It's important to make sure that you don't allow people to feel like you're in a state of wickedness, especially what Job was living through, that he's able to still endure and make sure that he stayed steadfast and unmovable what God was saying concerning him. All right. So in Job chapter 27, Job continues. This is what I love too. He continues to maintain his righteousness and also he deplores wickedness. Um, Listen, he can like even in his manner of conversation, in his manner of how he kept his composure. Like I said before, his questioning of God was not questioning the wisdom of God or the integrity of God. It was like, God, God, you said who I am. God, you made me. God, you formed me. God, I'm wondering why this is happening. God, why now I feel as though I'm weak. God, I feel as though I have nothing left. God, I'm nothing but bones and skin. These are the things he said, but he never questioned or never, if I can say this in a way of context of getting it, he never called God out of his name. He never disrespected God, even though he was asking questions that may seem disrespectful. They were never disrespectful in what Job was actually coming and asking God and sharing with God. He never displayed like what his wife wanted him to do, was basically curse God and die, right? Like tell God he's nothing. I curse him for all he's done. Job would never allow himself, and he said to his wife, early on, and you foolish woman, like I'm not going to do that, because again, I'm going to make sure that I stay integral. I'm going to make sure that I maintain my righteousness. That's what Job did. He did everything in him to make sure he stayed right before the Lord, and deplored everything that was wicked, even though it seems like wickedness could have been the way, because I've lived righteous and now this is what I get for righteous living. But that's not what he got for righteous living. It was just that moment God was giving, like I said, to prepare him for what was next and what God was going to do for him in increase. All right. And then Job chapter 28, this is my last part too as well. This is the last part that Job prays. And when he's praying, he's asking and he's seeking God when he's having this conversation, but he's searching out for wisdom. That's something I'm actually going to bring up tomorrow when I preach, because there's a difference in seeking out information or seeking out, what you want to know compared to seeking out wisdom. Job was seeking out wisdom from God. He wanted the wisdom of God in the midst of he wanted to know how not only to function, but also how to make correct decisions in this. Like, how do I stay wise through this? How do I continue to stay righteous? How do I continue to, like I said, make godly choices through this, right? Because everything in him wants to make a different choice. Everything in his flesh wants to, as his wife told him to do, right? Everything in him wants to move in a different direction, because again, what's going on in his body, what's going on around his house, what's going around through the situations and circumstances that he can physically touch and see, he allows himself to say, hold on, wait up 1 second. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to keep myself and ask the Lord for wisdom, and seek out wisdom and how to be wise in what's going on and what's happening around me, right? And I think that's so imperative, because he just didn't go off the information of his friends. He didn't just go off the information of what, he's feeling. He said, I really want the wisdom of God of how to really navigate in what I'm feeling, but also how to navigate in all that I've lost. I need to seek out wisdom, not information, which again, like I said, that's something the Lord had given me to talk about on tomorrow when I preach, but not just information, but looking for wisdom and looking for how to make the proper decisions, how to engage properly. And that's one of the great things about Job's story, that he was able to not go so far off that he loses himself with what he's in, but he remains righteous before the Lord. He remains searching for wisdom. He remains having questions, right? Having questions. There's nothing wrong with having questions, but it's also my approach of making sure that I always recognize that in the midst of all of it, God is still God. Okay? All right, I'm going to stop there tonight. Again, like I said, tomorrow we're back. Well, no, tomorrow we're not on. It's Sunday, but we'll be back on Monday as we continue through the book of Job. Again, like I said, not till January the 15th we get back into the book of Genesis. All right? All right, I appreciate you all. Y'all enjoy the rest of your evening. Hopefully your rest of your evening is sleep, because that's what I'm getting ready to do. All right, but I appreciate all of you. Y'all take care, and God bless. And I'll see you all, KO. I'll see you in the AM. You take care.